And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Alien Scientist podcast show, whatever you want to call it, the Alien Scientist channel. Tonight, I'm here with Cristina Gomez. Cristina, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited for this.
Yes, and by the way, that's Cristina with a CR. There's no H in it. I was trying to search for you and find you, and I'm like, why can't I find this girl? Like, I figured out it was an H that I had to drop the H, and then I can find you. So yeah, if you're searching for her and you can't find her, it's not because she's like shadow banned and they take her out of the algorithms. You're probably putting the H in there. So well, who knows? Not yet. So yeah, what happened with the YouTube channel? We're all super interested to find out.
Well, let me just put it straight out. I have no idea what happened. It happened, just like a few weeks ago now. And I have a YouTube channel that talks about the UFO phenomenon, along with things that are strange and unusual, twice a week. And I'm very careful with what I post and how I present data that is given to me that I can find online on books and documentaries and so on. I've never had any strikes or even any warnings whatsoever. And then one day at 4 a.m., because I don't sleep, so I figured this out at 4 a.m., that my channel was taken down with absolutely no reason. And for those that have YouTube channels, and that have had a warning before, you are aware that you get an email from YouTube stating, you didn't follow this guideline. You have a few more strikes before we take down your channel, but go ahead and get it fixed before we take your channel down. I didn't even get that. So as soon as that happened, I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe it was a mistake. So I went ahead and filled out an appeal. I'm thinking it's fine. Everything is going to be okay because I did not do anything wrong. I did nothing wrong. And within an hour or two, I got the appeal back stating, "No, sorry. You're still banned from your channel. We don't care what you say." And so I tried to ask YouTube and I said, "What did I do wrong? Please tell me so I can fix it." And they said, "You know what? We don't actually know what you did wrong, but you obviously did something wrong. Therefore, we're taking down your channel." And I'm thinking, I don't think that's how it works. I think you have to give me a reason before you say you're going to take down my channel. Okay? So from there, I start panicking and I'm thinking, holy crap. Well, I wouldn't say panicking, but like getting these kinds of stress levels because I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? Why is my channel being practically shadow banned, if not just regularly taken down, terminated?
And then all that hard work just down the toilet, It's like...
All that hard work. Because for those that don't know about my channel, and I say this pretty often for those that are regulars, but I spend hours upon hours, if not days, on research for every show that I do. Either I spend a full 24 hours or more on each guest that I interview, or I spend days on topics that are going to be covered as well for Mysteries with the History. And if my channel got terminated at the end, I'm thinking, holy crap, all that work will no longer be on YouTube, but it ended up being on other platforms, which we'll cover shortly. So I had to go ahead and contact some people that I thought had connections with YouTube. One of them being who had some people inside YouTube, and he asked, "Hey, can you just look at this channel and see why it got terminated with no explanation? Can you just take a look at it?" And after that happened, after 14 or 16 hours, the termination got removed and I got my channel back. And I feel like if I didn't have connections, I think I still would have been banned today. Now, for
Right,
my
because if no one cared and no one spoke out about it, they wouldn't have really cared. So
exactly. And during this time, during these 14 hours, I was incredibly shocked, but also humbled to see the amount of people that were supporting what I was doing and retweeting my tweets, signing petitions that was created by Brittany in Wonderland, and people saying, "What can I do to help?" I mean, I was swamped with messages on every social media platform, including you, Jeremy. where people were like, "What can I do to help? I'm so sorry this happened to you. This shouldn't be happening.
I know,
What
why
the
you?
heck?"
It's like, of all people, it's like, I mean, like, you're not talking about controversial stuff. It's not you're not
Exactly.
like
I mean, there are a lot crazier channels out there, like wild. And I'm thinking
yeah, David
everything.
Wilcock's still up. He's got 100 something thousand. He was a big QAnon guy. I mean, they got rid of a lot of the QAnon channels and stuff. It's weird why they're banning certain things. And you think you got flagged for the UFO issue?
I There is no evidence to lead me to a direction to say why they banned my channel, because again, with all of the things that I provide on my show, I try to back it up with evidence, and not only with evidence but where I got that information from. I don't just pull it out of the air, okay? Or I don't say, well, from my witness that I cannot mention right here right now, but someone in the deep state told me. Like, I don't even say that, okay? I try to give as much evidence as I can with data provided. So there shouldn't have been a reason to why it got terminated. Luckily, it's removed. Everything is fine. But even if the YouTube channel decided to take my channel down, doesn't that seem a little suspicious if that were the case? And so then I was already looking into other platforms where I could place my content. And I'm thinking, you know what? If YouTube's going to shut me up, I'm going to find every other place that I can just blast out the information. Now, if other social media platforms
Mhm.
started following that trend, then it would be incredibly suspicious, which today on Twitter, my Twitter stopped working. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I'm going to be on the show tonight with alien scientists talking about censorship. And then Twitter just had this malfunction with my channel, with my profile, where like the little tweet box was grayed out. So like I couldn't tweet for hours upon hours. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just my router. So I unplug the router and I plug it back in, and everything's working fine except Twitter. And everything's fine now. Twitter's working perfectly okay. Coincidence? I don't know. Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. Did anyone else experience that? I wasn't on Twitter during the day. I was on like early this morning, but I wasn't on like during the day. Was I don't know that's
Not to my knowledge. I mean, for those that are watching this live, if you guys had any issues with Twitter, please let me know. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy
yeah, like
theorist here saying that it's all
something
against
else.
me.
It's just weird how it was like right around I think it was right after you did the Philadelphia experiment, or it was either that or Dulce. I'm trying to remember when's the exact date that you got banned. I have it.
Let me
I'll go
check.
back to the Twitter archives because I know I retweeted this.
I mean, after it happened, everything got taken care of. I just stopped thinking about it altogether, and I was just telling myself, we'll just make it work. Everything will be fine. It was 3 weeks ago. It was during the Dulce
It was at
mystery
right
case.
after the Dulce thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I wonder if someone tagged you because for being on Jimmy Church and or talking about Dulce or something. It's just I just can't imagine what it would be.
But
Someone
see, if that were the case, if someone did report the channel, wouldn't the content creator be informed that you were reported? Right? It wouldn't just be like an instant
It's
takeaway
usually
with
like
no
because
information.
I know for a fact I've been on copyright strikes before, so like I've gotten videos flagged for one reason or another, and I've even gotten put on like probation where they say like, all right, well you can't, you're gonna, so I'm like in the bad boy camp, but you're like a first time offender. You're like this, I can't believe they just knocked you right off. It's just
I don't know either. I mean, again, I had no copyright strikes. I had no warnings. It was
yeah.
it was like the rug got pulled under my feet, and that's it. And it was awful. But everything is better now, but I'm definitely keeping a closer eye like this. Just
Yeah.
to make sure that everything's running smoothly, and that um I just here's the thing. I don't consider myself a threat. I wouldn't think that the government or some dark agencies is watching my channel, thinking that I'm like leaking information.
Oh, they're
What
gonna be
I
watching you now that you've been on my channel, so
I mean, with what I provide, I you can find it in books online or in documentaries. It's not in a deep dark place in a laboratory 10 feet underground or anything like that. So I wouldn't consider myself a threat in any way towards anybody.
right, and but you do some investigations, have you done any boots on the ground, like going to places or anything like that, or are you just mostly just, just getting sources and putting, information together? I mean,
I do some on the boots on the ground research. However, it's a lot more lighthearted. I do have pretty cool equipment that I can do night sky watching, but it hasn't been anything to where going to a base and like interviewing witnesses or military officials or things like that. And the thing is, now that I have a talk show on KUNX Talk Radio, shifting the paradigm on Tuesdays, um, and everything is kept very tame and very legit. And I feel like when you are on a more credible platform, or I guess company, I'm not really sure how that is, you have to really remain legitimate and you have to remain very calm with the information that you're given. So I feel like being on KUNX now, which has only been for like 2 weeks or so, I don't think there should be any kinds of taboo happening in the near future where I'll just be pulled off of social media with no explanation.
yeah, it's strange. So I know your guests don't seem super controversial. I mean, we've had people from, DARPA and the BAE, Lockheed Martin, all these companies and stuff come on our show and stuff. But I just don't understand it. It just it makes such little sense. You got Lou coming on, I guess Friday, right? Or
Lou Elizondo?
is Lou
No,
global?
I wish. Right now, he's not doing any interviews for anybody until like next year, to my knowledge.
Oh, all right. I
Um,
thought I saw something about you having him on or
no,
something.
I just had Whitley Strieber on yesterday, and that was something else. Because he's a really big influence for me. When I had first read his book in high school, I'm thinking this is real, like this is a thing. Well, I guess allegedly, but he through his writing skills, I feel like he's touched a lot of people about the topic, and it was an honor to be able to interview him for the show.
Yes,
And then
that's
and then
awesome.
next week will be Ross Coulthard.
Oh, you're getting Ross on. That's nice. That's cool. So, I wanted to ask about you. You'd mentioned briefly about going to other platforms and stuff, to get information out. And what other platforms did you have you checked out, or have you posted your videos on, or where can people find you if there's a backup platform?
The ones that right now I'm streaming to directly would be on like my Facebook group, along with Twitch. It is kind of the ones that are still relatively bigger platforms than maybe a few others like Odyssey or like Vimeo, which are also still good ones, but they're not that big yet. But those are the ones that I looked into, and I might end up going back into streaming, such as also like BitChute, Daily Motion, yeah, Vimeo, Odyssey. There are quite a few locations where anyone can go ahead and stream information. And with those in particular, they're not as sensitive with censorship like YouTube is. With YouTube, you have to be really careful with what you talk about. I feel like, especially with the algorithm that's been going on, like I guess like for maybe a year or so now. There's a lot of rumors or a lot of conspiracy
Yeah,
theories that if you use certain keywords, it
yeah,
like it like affects the system in some way,
yeah.
and then
They pick up on the words, man. If you talk
your
about
channel won't be like
flat spheres or like, I'm trying to think of like the keywords that I could say that people will know what I'm talking about without triggering the
there
actual.
you go. That's
Yeah,
smart.
that's the key is to trick that algorithm. And but yeah, I found that too. I remember Disclosed TV was the one back in the day originally when when Google Video first got bought out by YouTube, and that's when people, I think Disclosed TV came out, and I posted a whole bunch of my old backups on Disclosed TV, and they actually were like, because it was a new site, they became like some of the most popular videos like on there for a while, and then I don't know what happened, but yeah, that was cool back in the day. Disclosed TV, I think they're still around, and Vimeo, yeah, I think you have to pay for Vimeo or something.
You do,
Yeah,
and it's apparently like pretty expensive. So I haven't officially jumped into that one yet. But talking about videos that you have on any channel, it's so important to back up all of your content to a hard drive just in case.
stuff disappears.
Mhm.
So much
Exactly.
disappears. So much has disappeared too. It's crazy. I've been doing this for 17 years, and I've seen stuff that's like come and go, or it's like, you watched it once and you were like, oh, that's interesting. Then like 5 years later, you're like, oh, that I was looking for. You're looking for it and you can't find it. And it's like, you got to be careful, guys, man.
You do.
So
You gotta be wise with where you place your data, and then also to always back it up. And especially now with, you know, the alleged Mandela effect, right? You don't even know what's going on anymore. I just saw a recent tweet by George Knapp who said that whip, like the miracle whip, is now spelled WIP. Since when? Since when?
they took the H out of whip, huh?
Yeah, and I just saw an ad a few days ago when I don't know when whatever platform I was on, and I saw the ad for Miracle Whip and it was WHIP. And then today it's not. No. No.
Is this like one of the Berenstein Bears thing where like they changed the spelling of it? Everyone remembers it differently, and
Yes,
I don't
and just recently I was doing research about Nikola Tesla. And I remembered him dying in his 40s in his home. And then when I was doing the research, I'm like, that man looks really old. Who the heck is that? And Nikola Tesla died in his 80s in a hotel. And I'm thinking, I don't remember this back in school.
Yeah, they didn't teach you that stuff, but I don't know. Unless you had good teachers, some people learn that stuff from good teachers and stuff. But what else was I gonna say? Yeah, Odysseys are right too, because like I've had problems with Odyssey. It seems like it takes forever to upload and then name the video, and then I just haven't had good luck with anything I've uploaded there yet. So I stopped in the middle of trying to put all my content on there, because it was just like, all right, what's the point of this? I don't know. But yeah, Odyssey. Any other ones that you can mention before we move on? Any other platforms or that you jumped out to, or anything else?
Yeah, I mean that's like the biggest one, but just to quickly go back to what was stating, I just I don't know what to think about all of it. I mean, it's really fun to talk about and to think about, but when it comes to the Mandela effect, these are just merely alleged accounts. So I just want to state that there that these are just fun things to talk about, but not necessarily with evidence to back up the claims. Now, when it comes to Vimeo and other platforms, again, like I had mentioned, Odyssey, Daily Motion, but I also feel like Twitch is a relatively growing platform that is no longer for just gamers. Now, there's a lot of like podcasts placing their content there, and it's growing relatively rapidly.
Nice. That's good. I'm glad. It's good to see, like, that's what I feel like is going to happen, is if they keep cracking down with the censorship, and you know distilling the spread of the information. I think people are going to create these other platforms, and they're going to end up taking over, and they're going to lose. They're just going to lose a lot of customers and a lot of people through these mainstream networks and stuff. Do you think like do you believe like this is disclosure, like there's an awakening happening, and that, do you think, are you on, like, are you think that there there's a reason they're banning channels like yours, and might be something deeper, or do you think it was just like some algorithmic flaw?
I'm I'm really not sure. I could be one of the two, or it could be both. But I wouldn't really agree that it would be disclosure. It could very well just have been in just could have been a flaw in some respects. But with everything that's going on with the mainstream media, with content being provided every single day, the Gillibrand Amendment, the Pentagon, and all of this, I feel like that's kind of leaning more towards disclosure that is more tangible than maybe just a few channels here and there just magically disappearing, because no one's going to notice that. But when the government is coming out, by the government, at least the United States, I feel like that carries a lot more weight. And I don't really think of conspiracies, but this topic is very volatile.
Right. Yeah. So, like, as far as disclosure, you make a good point, because it's not like you're out there, boots on the ground, digging up new information and putting it on the internet, that you're a threat in that regard. It's not like, um, I'm trying to think of the reasoning behind why they'd ban your channel. And it's got to be algorithmic, like that. It just something got caught up with what you were talking about, and they didn't like it. And it might have been dulce. I think it might have been that word dulce, because of everything that happened with that and everything. So I don't know. Maybe that was it. But it's still interesting that they didn't give you an exact reason, and they couldn't give you, yeah, this was the word that triggered our algorithm, or something like tangible to say, hey, don't do this, guys. Hey, that was the key word. Don't. Oh, and she said China.
And she said China. Well, the word dulce, from the dulce base, I don't think that would be a trigger word, just because in Spanish,
It means
dulce
candy.
means
Yeah.
sweet, right? Or candy. So, but I'm still learning. I'm still young. I'm female. I'm Latina. And who knows? I mean, there's something new in this topic, right? I want to learn, and I keep saying I dive into rabbit holes all the time, and my audience learns with me every single episode. But everything, it's clean and it's legit with the information I provide. So it really caught me off guard and caught me surprised to find out that the channel was just taken away. And again, if I hadn't had contacted certain people, I don't think I would still have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and it's also like, Paul points out, it's when your channel is growing, so you're almost to that 10,000 mark number, and obviously when you teamed up or did a video with Jimmy Church, it probably it probably gave you like a huge influx of people that came to your channel. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what happened to me when I got on Timcast, like for back in February. Is it boosted me over that 100,000 mark, because I got like suddenly 50,000, 60,000 people watching me live, and I was like, holy crap. Here I am on a big podcast. So like that like hit my channel, and Tim actually warned me. He's like, you might want to take down some of your certain conspiracy videos that you have up, because what's going to happen is it's gonna put you in another bracket, and they're gonna be going over your channel with a fine tooth comb, because you got an influx of too much people, not too many new eyes looking at your channel, so they're gonna like scan it. And I think that might have happened in your case when you got on with Jimmy Church, and that maybe he brought an influx of new viewers to your channel, and that triggered the algorithms. So.
I mean, maybe that's the case, but I'm someone that also specializes deeply in SEO. So even if Jimmy had or had not been a co-host for my show, I think I would have still had about the same amount of subscribers regardless, just because I work incredibly diligently to place all of the information that is needed for YouTube to properly push out the content.
Right, and you're like putting sources in your video description, and so like anything that there's that's questionable, it's like, no, well, this is where I got it from. I'm not just.
Exactly, exactly. But of course, those that you interact with that have a higher subscriber rate than you do, obviously it does help your channel. But I feel
Yeah,
like in some regards, people place a too high of an importance for other people that have such high subscribers, because that doesn't always mean that they actually like the person that you have on your show and they're actually going to come to your channel, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So So yes, again, it is good to have anyone come onto your show, regardless if they have 10 subscribers or 1,000 or 1,000,000, whatever. It's just really kind of engaging with your audience and to give them the information that they want or that they don't know that they want, but they really like the information that you provide them.
Yes, yeah, and that's what's going to happen is people are going to get sick of the censorship and start moving to other platforms, and you know that would be unfortunate. YouTube, really, this guy, you know, pointed out. Who was the guy who said he thought that YouTube was going to be, something really great back in 2015? That YouTube was one of the most important things for the future of the world. It was, man. There was like so much great information that YouTube was just putting out there and making available to anyone. And you had all these experts, training people how to do this, how to do that, so you can pretty much do all this stuff now. And that got me tons of jobs because I do tile, and all these people watch the video and they try to do it themselves and screw it up. And but certain things are harder to do yourself than others. But YouTube brought this whole tangible thing. Like there was lots of science experiments that were being done on YouTube. There's some of my favorite channels with guys showing you how to build this. I like Jeremiah showing you how to build a magic wand that can charge up things, and yeah, there's some great stuff that was happening for YouTube, and it's just a shame that the corporations got a hold of it, and they made it, instead of YouTube, they made it corporate tube, and now you get certain things recommended to you over other content, in the video feed. So stuff like us, where we're not like a big player, we're not going to get promoted and recommended.
At least not as much as those that talk about like, oh, here's a review on slime, or do you want to learn how to use a screwdriver? Well, this video has 5 million views. Enjoy yourself. And I'm thinking, I don't think this content is very useful for humanity.
Yeah, I know. I feel like what's going on right now with UAP is incredibly useful for humanity. But it's also world changing because it's kind of like you start to view your reality through a different lens. And I think that they're afraid of too many people doing that because there's too many other things that, they don't want people to wake up to as well. Then, what? The government's been lying about UFOs for 80 years now, and they're just coming clean. And like, what else are they lying about,
Well, I feel like this is one of the biggest mysteries in our society right here, right now. And with my generation, I mean, we grew up with the internet. We grew up with YouTube. And as a Gen Zoomer, they're not called Gen Zs anymore, which I love this, right? But I get to learn from my guests and open the conversation with people my age, especially who are new to this topic, because with the UFO phenomena, there's a lot to it, and you can easily fall into a black hole and never come out. And
Yeah.
this has been a crazy year with mainstream media coverage. And there's a lot of tech savvy, just young people now asking the questions about the UFO topic that are incredibly timely given our push into space. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we even have Elon Musk trying to colonize Mars. Then you have Jeff Bezos who opened his Blue Origin, right? Trying to make that public, making it more mainstream, I guess. I mean, right now it's $55
All the
million
billionaires
a
trying to
ticket.
escape. All the billionaires trying to escape the world that they destroyed.
But at some point, it's going to become mainstream. Maybe in 100 years, 200 years time, it'll be something that you can just do on a whim. You can just travel to the moon like it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And with my generation, those that are in their early 20s to their very, very early 30s, it's very possible that we might actually see that in our lifetime. And I'm, for those that don't know, I'm in college and I'm definitely a struggling college student. And to run a channel like mine, it's a lot of work. But
How do you
my
have time to go take all your classes and pass all your exams and study and do all your homework and do all do the YouTube thing? It's
Well, I don't sleep, so if this is why I wear a lot of makeup right here because I have like dark eyes. So, makeup is really great. But so it's a lot
I
of
actually
work.
saw a stupid thing the other day saying that there's like people trying to do makeup under their eyes to fake tired now. There's fake tired makeup like for those rich people that like want to pretend like they're tired.
I just want to have an excuse to not do the things 100%. They're like, "Oh, I'm really tired. I just can't do it right now."
But
And
yes,
I'm thinking,
insomnia, that's a driving factor. Is it that you're just so interested in what you're learning about and what you're researching that it's more interesting than sleep? Because that's kind of how it is for me sometimes. Like it's like
oh, 100%. There are so many things out there that we can possibly get our hands on, or things that we just want to know the answers about, because it's very boring to live a lifestyle where you're on your phone and you just watch people with their fashion shows, or like how to apply makeup, especially I guess for the more of the female end.
right. With me, it would be like the guys. It would
You're
be like sports. Hey guys, let's
which is
let's hang
also
out and watch
boring.
the game. And
Yeah, but it's like your idols are either what Messi and like these sports players, or the Kardashians. And that I feel like takes away the human curiosity, because we have been curious since the beginning of time. Either running, well, I guess traveling through desolate deserts, or going to the other side of the world, traveling the ocean that no one thought was possible. And then there's just magically another piece of land on the other side, thousands upon thousands of miles away. If that curiosity wasn't embedded in us, we would be, I don't know where we would be, honestly, just because it would be so boring. We wouldn't have the internet. We wouldn't be able to have these conversations when we're so many miles away. We would just remain being hunters and gatherers. And even with that, you have to be curious to try new foods, right? To attempt to create medicine.
make
And
new foods. Who's the first guy that bottled up a bunch of grape juice and then figured out, hey,
this is kind of good, but I got to add a few preservatives to like really make it last.
yeah.
So it's because of those curious moments that we can evolve as a species. And if we were not curious about space, we wouldn't have gone to the moon. We wouldn't be able to put rovers on Mars. So there's a lot of things that we can be doing, and there's a lot of things that we should be avoiding, such as like very mainstream entertainment. I mean, today's entertainment industries literally just dumb down the brain. And because of
And the
this,
music, yeah.
the music, like, look, after the 90s came, the early 2000s, that's when music started getting kind of bad.
Yeah.
80s music is the best, but because of this, I don't have cable TV, and I don't bother with that. I'd much rather read a book than be fed soccer. Like, no thanks.
No, dude, you gotta get off that instant ramen and like actually go to a real ramen noodle place and
But like, but come on, instant ramen's pretty good. It only
hey.
takes like 2 minutes to make. It's like the best part. two
There's a
minutes.
lot of good portion of the world that's fed on instant ramen, so I can't knock it.
No, you can't drop it till you try it. Is that how the saying goes? Don't knock it till you try it. Something like that.
Yes.
But I eat pretty good ramen from a local sushi place from time to time. So like I don't eat just instant ramen. I have a lot stocked up in the house, but if I'm feeling really bougie one day, then yes, I will go to a sushi restaurant and have like some good ramen.
Yeah, the 80s is like when like all the singers in rock and roll like really tried to outperform each other with musicianship. Like if you're looking for like really difficult stuff to sing, I mean, there's a couple bands from the late 70s and stuff, but the
But I
the
mean, not
80s
just
is
yeah, but I mean, not just sing, but also like the guitar solos. You can
yes.
actually hear all the instruments separately. I mean, in today's music, it just sounds like noise. Like you can't really actually hear the instruments. So the 80s, if
And
whoever
there's no
said
guitar
Led
solos.
Zeppelin, oh yeah.
In
Oh,
today's music, man, they might have like a little synth solo, but it's all about the hook and the beat. It's not. There's no like. There's no
no.
real. Yeah, it's
No.
just.
And with the 80s, right? You even had some like pretty good TV shows of the 80s and the 90s. I mean, some pretty good British comedy. You have Father Ted, which is actually Irish. One of my favorite TV shows from like the early 90s. And then you have the young
Family
ones.
Matters, Simpsons. Yeah,
Oh, I mean, sometimes it is still running, so that one's pretty good. And then, there's a lot of British music that transferred from England over to the United States and across the world during the 80s that really blew people's socks off. That's for sure.
heck yeah, and all the Norwegian and Swedish metal and all that stuff too, because those guys totally rock out too.
They do.
Man,
What
you've been
happened?
talking to Jimmy Church with his guitar collection and all his. He's a music
Ah,
guru guy too. So
so many guitars. I'm thinking I recently asked him, like, do you actually play all of them? He says, yeah. Yeah, I do. And I'm thinking, I don't know how you have time for that. That's a lot of guitars.
yeah, good stuff. Um, yeah, there's still a lot of good music. Yeah, there's just it's just not mainstream, man. It's like you gotta like find. There's a lot of underground, like incredible underground musicians out there and YouTube's like really progressed that too, because now people can learn all kinds. They can go look up how to play this guitar solo and how to play these songs, and it's much easier than what I had to do back in the day with like the tablatures, looking at like text files and to get tablatures.
Oh,
That was like how we used to do it. And then they came out with like Guitar Pro, some of these other um, live action tablatures that could actually transcribe sheet music to tablature and then show you like play it live, and so you could like learn like where to all the fingerings and notes and stuff like by
oh,
watching it and stuff. So it's progressed a lot though. With YouTube is just the best way to learn songs, because you can actually watch someone play it and get all the.
exactly. And then have like another screen that shows you the sheet music or like what strings to touch as well. I mean, I grew up with Guitar Hero and I was always told if you master Guitar Hero, you could never play a real instrument. And they
Yeah.
were right. I cannot play guitar for the life of me, but I can like smash it in Guitar Hero.
Dang. They have my friend had this I forget what it was called. There's this plug. You can actually plug your guitar into the computer with a USB cable like that hooks up to a guitar plug, and there's like a whole software that will tell you I think it's Guitar Pro. What is that? What is the name of this? I gotta find the software. I'll post it in the thing after. Someone out there probably knows this already. But yeah, they have like it's like Guitar Hero, but it's for real guitar, and you can actually it will tell you what chord you're playing, it will tell you the notes you're playing, and then like it's got all the you know Rocksmith. That's it. Yeah, Rocksmith. You got it. That's it. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah,
That is
Rocksmith is
awesome.
Rocksmith's incredibly awesome. You get a whole bunch of good songs on there. It will teach you how to play them, show you like the tablature and the playthrough, and it will like listen to you and judge you on like how you're doing too. Yeah, Rocksmith is a great one. Yeah, you have to buy like the cable that goes with it and stuff, but
Totally valid. I mean, it's amazing how far technology has come to be able to do things like that. And right now, the only game I play when I do have time is the Space Sim Elite Dangerous. Have you played it or have you heard of it?
no, Space Sim Elite
Well, no,
Dangerous.
it is a space sim, but it's called Elite
Is it like The
Dangerous.
Sims?
No, 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 no. No.
Okay, sorry, I'm like bad. This is not. Is it like Eve? How about Eve? You've heard of Eve before,
I
right?
have not heard of Eve, but it's like a space simulation to where it's actually created by astronomers and by certain telescopes that understood how the universe looks. And so each planet that you go to, or when you're traveling from place to place, it's relatively accurate.
What is it
And
called?
it's called
Sorry,
Elite Dangerous.
Elite Dangerous. Sorry.
Yeah, and you can be like a pirate or a policeman or just like an explorer, and you just travel the galaxy.
You play it on PS4 or?
I play it on PC, but you can play it on PS4 as well.
Yeah, huh? Oh, so yeah, this is cool. So
It's really cool.
2014 is when it came out, or 2017?
I'm not too sure, but they just got a recent update where you can actually walk around your ship and on the planets as well. It's like
So this reminds me of Eve Online. So Eve Online is another one of these games, and it's a massive multiplayer online game. And apparently there was some ship that was worth $60,000 in real life, and all these guys coordinated to go and blow it up, and like so they were all like complaining that like they destroyed like $60,000 worth of value for nothing, but it was all in a video game and it wasn't real, and but it was real, and I don't know. So this is another one of those kind of games, but it's this one. I apparently it's like I don't know. My brother said he started playing it, and he said there's like jokes about the learning curve on the game because it's yeah. This is how the learning curve for the
Holy crap.
Eve. So like most of these are like World of Warcraft is blue, Star Trek Online is red, and then this is Eve Online. It's just like this exponential like there's just so much to learn, and then you fall off here, and then maybe you'll make I don't know. It's like their joke about how much there is in the game because apparently it's like just anything you could do in real life. Like if you were an alien and had spaceships and could go to space, it's like you can apparently do in this game and get. And there's lots of people that waste their entire lives living in the online multiplayer universe. So
Yeah, I mean it's a great distraction from a stressful day, but it's not something that anyone should dedicate their life to. And now especially with like the new technology that we have of like simulations where like we wear those what are those goggles called? And you have the
the VR, yeah, the
yeah.
Oculus.
I mean it sounds awesome. Do not get me wrong, but at the same time it could easily just steal your life away.
Like the South Park episode where Cartman gets stuck in the virtual world, and no, I haven't seen that one. That was
I
funny.
haven't seen
Oh
it.
God, it's hilarious. He's like, Kyle. The Butters. They basically in the episode, like he's using the Oculus to convince Butters to do all this stuff, and he tells him, "No, you're in the simulation, Butters. You can do it. You won't get in trouble." Like, oh, it's just like getting him to do all this stuff, telling him it was the simulation.
Oh jeez. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm gonna be surprised with future generations that are gonna grow up with that kind of technology, like growing up from the youngest
Yeah,
age to play
with
it. What are they gonna turn out to be? Are they going to be just indulging in a virtual reality? Or will they be able to explore things that simply we cannot explore right here, right now? So I feel at this point in time, I don't have a conclusion, but hopefully it'll be more for the better than for the worse.
Renee, by the way, Christina's name is spelled without the H, and that's if you try to search for Christina with an H, you won't find her. That's been a problem for a couple of people. Like, how, so definitely drop the H. But other than that, yes.
Yeah, it's the Spanish way, not like the
It's not
English.
Tristina. Okay, I remember when I first learned Chris, I was like, that's how when I was first learning to read in like Tris. This is like it never made sense to me to spell it that way.
It
So
it doesn't, but then if you have Tristan, it's TR instead of
yeah,
CH. And I'm like, "Hold on. The English language. Can you stop for
like
a
can you
second?"
start making sense, please? Like
Never.
never,
It'll never make sense.
especially if you're from Boston, because your R's are A's and your A's are R's. So it's like, can I get some pizza?
I've
Yeah.
been to Boston once, and I didn't have to encounter that,
No,
the
it's
thick
not that bad
accents.
all the time, but some people take it more seriously than others. But
Of course. Just depends on, I guess, what part you go to, what street you end up on, like
yes,
anywhere.
go to Southie. Yeah.
No thanks.
No thanks.
No thanks. It's not my cup of tea. I like the
Have you ever
small
been in
towns.
Northeast? Have you ever been out? Traveled the East Coast? Or you
Yeah,
just
I mean, only to Massachusetts. That's it. I haven't. Yeah, just Massachusetts.
Massachusetts?
The only place I only lived like for a few days, so I didn't really get to see everything and to hear the accents and try their pizza. That part was disappointing. I couldn't try
You
their
didn't even
pizza.
get Pizzeria Regina? Did you go to Boston? Where'd you go?
I did go to Boston
Yeah.
for a few days, but I wasn't educated then when I did go, so I didn't know where to look.
Yes, right. Don't go to Pizzeria Regina.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a mental note of that.
To
I
know
won't forget.
they're all right, but I don't know. That's like the famous one in Boston.
Really? I mean, honestly, I'm not like a ginormous fan of pizza. It's just I love pineapple pizza. I know it's gonna be like a fight now on the live
Oh,
chat, but I
pineapple. I
love
get
pineapple
pineapple and bacon or
pizza.
pineapple and ham. That's what I get when I get pizza. So
Best.
that's my favorite pizza. So anyone who doesn't like it can leave. So or go have their own pizza.
With no pineapples. But if I come over, there has to be pineapples. Otherwise, I won't eat it. Just kidding. I probably would.
So let's talk about this Philadelphia project. What kind of what kind of research did you do into that, and what was what are some of your conclusions on that? Because that's an interesting topic.
It is. It is. And I think it was one that took me longer to research than maybe a few other subjects or I guess topics. Just because like a decent before I got into the books. So how I do my research is I go online and I try to read as much as I can based off like articles or websites, and then from there dive into the books that obviously go a lot deeper than like a one-page paper. So when I was going through the websites first, it was very basic. There was very little information, honestly, and I'm thinking, how am I going to talk about this for an hour and a half when there's just not enough content out there? So I was getting kind of nervous um, to try to find more information because I knew that there was a bunch out there. I just wasn't looking in the right places. And for those that don't know about the Philadelphia experiment, just to do a rough overview, um, the U.S. Navy was attempting to allow the USS Eldridge to be invisible by radar. However, they placed on the ship Tesla coils so that in an attempt to affect the electromagnetic waves around it and to disappear from the radar. But what ended up happening was not only did the USS Eldridge became invisible to the radar, but it disappeared. It allegedly disappeared.
So
And
optical invisibility.
there you go. Exactly. And
Right,
for
the
those
green fog, this green haze and this green fog appeared apparently and surrounded the ship, and it disappeared. And then there was allegations that it time traveled, and then when it came back, there was like people the sailors were like fused inside the hull and like entombed inside the metal of the ship and stuff, according to people who were there. But I believe that the Eldridge survived that. You know, was still around. And when was the Eldridge decommissioned? Wasn't there something like
I'm not sure when it was decommissioned, but I know how the experiment started in 1943.
43?
Um, yeah, and originally it was not called the Philadelphia experiment, but it was the alleged Project Rainbow. And then it later on turned into the Philadelphia experiment. And it states that there were actually two experiments that happened. Now, from all of the research that I did, from where I could find the information, no one had a consistent date of when these two things happened, but all of them happened around October, but none of them could agree on the exact day.
Hmm.
So the first experiment that happened was both of them happened in October, but the first one was obviously earlier October in 1943, where just the USS Eldridge appeared and disappeared with the light fog around it. And those that were on the ship allegedly were both physically and mentally ill soon after. So then the officials decided to go ahead and postpone future tests, I guess to better understand why there were such side effects. Then with the second experiment, the side effects were a lot worse, obviously, like how you had mentioned. The second one only happened maybe a few days to a week after the first experiment. And in this case, not only was there like a green fog around it, but it kind of like there was this flash of light that made it disappear. And then allegedly it reappeared 200 miles away
Mm,
in Virginia.
yeah,
Now, with this story, not only are there people being infused into the ship, but there's also this little piece of time travel also incorporated into the story. Now, there are two
yeah,
alleged accounts of the
teleportation.
time travel, right? One of them being when when the USS Eldridge teleported to Virginia 200 miles away. Some people were saying that it arrived in Virginia 10 minutes prior to when the USS Eldridge was originally in Philadelphia, if that makes sense. Now, it can be a little bit confusing. Again, these are just merely alleged accounts. It's very difficult to go ahead and provide evidence for these claims because there are
Yeah, man.
stories. I mean, well, there
We've
are
done quantum teleportation in a lab, and I think they've teleported light, but they haven't been able to teleport, so much as a grain of sand. Never mind a destroyer. You know,
right. I mean, that thing is ginormous.
That's a huge Navy ship, man.
I
They
mean,
could to think
it
that they had that capability to do something like that in 1943 is just that's pretty wild.
it makes you question what they
It's
can do
beyond
now
belief.
if that really did happen.
No, it's beyond belief. There's no way I believe that. You know what I mean? It's like as a thinking scientist familiar with, teleportation and quantum physics, I do not believe that this happened.
It's I mean, it's very difficult to go ahead and provide consequent or good evidence to say that yes it is true or no it is not true. I haven't made up my mind on what I believe on it. All I can do is listen to alleged accounts, and it really is a mystery with a history, and that's exactly why I covered it, because we simply do not know the answer. Now, of course, you
Yeah,
have
it's
those
crazy
that are
stories, man, and we don't know. I can't prove it didn't happen, but at the same time, I think, like, from a science standpoint, it makes sense that the degaussing and, trying to, do stuff to the ship with Tesla coils to make it invisible to radar. That stuff makes sense. But a lot of these other stories, man, it almost sounds like they were just putting out, it's almost sounds like they were putting out disinformation to, like, kind of obscure what they were doing for real, like the real physics experiments or any real science that was going on. They kind of just, I don't know, it seems like these stories were purposely added as, like, disinformation to sort of cover up the reality of what they were doing. That's kind of my take on the whole thing.
you're right. I mean, it is completely absurd, and I don't believe everything or anything. I mean, I have to be very hands-on to believe it. But you see, young people like me, they are coming across these stories like the Montauk Project, like Bob Lazar claims, and they don't know if it's true or not. And that's why I have my show, Mysteries with a History, so I can go through these stories together with them. And a big reason to why I have Jimmy Church with his experience, and why I also interview my guests, just because when you're new to this phenomena, there's a lot of stories that aren't true. There's a lot of disinformation out there. But if you don't know where to look or who to talk to, you could possibly believe everything that you read, or
Right.
believe absolutely nothing that you read
Or
and be a
believe nothing.
debunker instead of a skeptic. So that's a big reason to why I cover what I do. Regardless if I believe them to be true or not, I still spend countless hours doing research to back up both them not being true or them being true, because you have to be without bias when you're providing information.
Indeed. So, yeah, someone said about your symptoms earlier. They must have been just logging on and listening to the first part of the show. You might want to try just deleting all your cookies, getting rid of all your cookies, because sometimes you get a bad cookie in there that might be blocking out your Twitter feed there. You also might want to just consider changing your passwords every so often, because you can get, there is, ways to hack and stuff. So try to use different passwords on different platforms and change them, every 6 months to a year,
Oh yeah.
just for OPSEC. So yeah, I just a side note, a
Yeah,
word aside.
I did. It all works now. Everything is fine.
Cool. Yes, because we're worried about censorship, man. We don't like that stuff. We want people to be able to speak freely and speak openly. And even if you want to talk about ships teleporting, 200 feet, and stuff that sounds completely impossible to the physics um, enthusiasts out there, and everything. We still have the right to talk about it, even if it's complete garbage and not belief, man. We just we should reserve the right to talk about it, even if it's wrong, and because a lot of it's pointing out the stuff that's wrong and moving on from that, because there is a little bit of grain of truth in everything. And I think that it's a misunderstanding of documented naval experiments, that there was, people witnessing certain things and hearing certain things and rumors going around, and it's just a lot of bizarre scenarios combined for this timeline that we have of what was going on. But I tend to try to look at what we can learn from the real science of it, apply the science, because it's like, who are the scientists, what kind of theory were they working on, and was there any you know and then this whole thing, because I went down to I mentioned I went down to West Virginia and talked to the librarian there, who's like an expert on a lot of these cases, because he does research on them all day at this library. And he's like this old guy who's retired and he has nothing better to do, but he's wicked smart. And I forget his name. I have the video of him up there, but he runs the Gray Barker Museum there down in Clarksburg, West Virginia. But he tipped me off to this guy, Carlos Allende, or Carl Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Allen is the one that wrote the whole case for the UFO that, Jessup published later. Apparently that was a manuscript given him by this guy, Carl Allen, who's the guy who made up all, apparently he's the source of all these stories on the ship teleporting and the people getting fused in the hull and everything. And I thought that was interesting, because that sort of tied this all together with this guy Jessup. So Jessup was the real colonel, who was it Colonel Jessup, or am I just confusing that with a few good men?
Jessup was the author of the infamous book that Allen helped him write, and it was called like the UFOs.
The case for the UFO.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what it was called. And the story behind that, at least allegedly, Carl Allen, he was a witness to the Philadelphia experiment. He had no one else to tell the story to, so he reaches out to Jessup, who, to my understanding, was already investigating the case, but I don't think had enough information, because based off of his research and based off of what Carl Allen had stated, all of those that were a part of the Philadelphia experiment, one or the other, because there were two different experiments, that they were actually brainwashed by the U.S. Navy forces to have them forget what happened. Now, again, these are alleged accounts. We simply do not know that. But
yeah, I think they were told other things too. I think that they were told that they were all these other fantastic tales, so that they'd repeat those, and they would discredit their any real parts of the story too. Yeah, it's super interesting. No, sorry to cut you off. Continue.
No, you're fine. And so with that, Carl Allen said to Jessup in a letter, and all of these letters are in the book written by Jessup. So for those that want to read it, even if you don't believe the story, or even if you do, it's a great book to read. It's very entertaining. I did read it. So Allen goes ahead and states, look, what I'm telling you is true. But if you don't believe me, go ahead and get the best hypnotherapist and you can hypnotize me. And I will take a certain drug that will not allow me to lie. And I can't remember what exactly it was. He did state it in his letter. It was like some kind, I can't remember what it was called, but it was one to where you're literally not able to lie. However, this didn't end up happening. Jessup and Allen didn't meet, from the stories in the book at least. And later on, just a few years after the book was published, Jessup allegedly committed suicide.
Huh. Yeah, so they had sent a copy of this to the Office of Naval Research, and there was a book filled with all these margins and the handwritten notes. So there's a copy of that somewhere with all there's a copy of this book with all those notes and the margins and everything.
Yeah, all the annotations, and it was meant to be is meant to look like 3 different people. However, later on, Alan did confess that he wrote all 3 annotations written in different inks and different handwriting, but to make it look like it was 3 people instead of just 1.
Hmm.
Which it really makes you question what was the motive behind that, and why, if this story is true, why did Alan ship Jessup's book to the Office of Naval Intelligence or
Yeah.
Naval Research, his Office of Naval Research?
Yeah.
I mean, this story and a lot of stories when it comes to the strange, mysterious, the paranormal, and the UFO, there's a lot of holes to all of the stories that we hear, even the most famous, Roswell. And that one is one that I don't know if we'll ever find the truth behind it. But I feel like even if these stories are true or not, whichever one you read, the Montauk, the Philadelphia, Roswell, Colares, whatever, there are so many holes. It's like whoever's providing this information just sprinkles these little pieces of doubt to where none of the stories will ever be confronted as 100% true, and people can allow them to be classified as fantasies without any question to even doubt it.
Right, and then there's all the disinformation too. So people thinking that this is about teleporting and ships that actually turn invisible, optical invisibility, when it was just probably just a test to experiment with radar invisibility and counter radar. Which is, there's been a ton of that's gone on, and that's been the real research for a lot of stuff. There's been a ton of research at Area 51 into counter radar and anti-radar systems. So I guess and there's been a lot of secrecy surrounding that, and ways to throw people off, that stuff. So I don't know. There's all that. I just generally like to approach topics in ufology like everybody's misled, lying, or otherwise, just confused. That's kind of like how I approach everything. And I just say, like, I'm not going to believe anything. I'm going to be like, just this until I can find something that proves it to myself. I'm going to just take that sort of cynical look to it. But I don't know. Do you have any ways that you approach ufology, or any, like ways that you do an investigation and stuff that's special or make you different?
I think what you said is incredibly accurate. It's so important to not believe really anything that we hear, read, or see, because for a lot of us, as myself included, I feel like we need to be experiencers to go ahead and really believe what's going on, or in some way, be provided all of the data, all of the evidence to back up these stories. And if we only have bits and pieces, yes, it is going to lead to doubt. It's going to make you question, is this true or not? Is that what's meant to happen? Are we meant to question it in the wrong way of all of these things being classified as fantasy? So the way I do my research is I look at everything I can get my hands on. Absolutely all of the information that is provided to me, because if we're selective with what we consider truth, that already automatically shows your bias. And when it comes to this, that's going to be used against you, right? Because then I forgot what it's called, but when you are doing data, or when you already have a preconceived idea, you're going to go ahead and find information that only backs up your opinion. You're not going to find information that goes against what you already believed. And if that's the case, your data is going to be skewed. It's going to be false data. So it's important that balance with all of your information that is provided. And it's like you're discriminating. You have to discriminate all your data equally. So it's important to look at everything, even if you think it's total BS, which there is some information out there that I read and I'm like, really? Okay, well, it's at least it's something, even though it might not necessarily be the
Yeah.
truth. But
I'll
if
just source it, and attribute it accordingly. Hey, Corey Good said there's blue avian aliens, and
well, I guess the biggest thing and something that we've heard so often, especially in this field, is sometimes truth can be stranger than fiction. And with that being said, everything that you look at, all the data that you see, that goes through my mind. If this is that crazy, could it could it be true? We don't
I know.
know.
Yeah,
We
right.
don't
Just like
know.
me with the David Icke thing. I always make fun of David Icke and his theory that the Queen's a reptilian and that she that they're all reptilian aliens and that they're all really aliens. But man, the last 2 years I've I've really like started to actually question that whether or not these people running the show are they really are they human?
I do like the memes. The memes
Yeah.
make me laugh. With the queen being a reptilian. But I mean,
Right.
even with him, he's a good example of someone that has been censored, who has been banned on YouTube, on Twitter, and a few other platforms for his outrageous statements. Now, he is not someone that I've deeply looked into. I don't know him very well when it comes to his research, but I am aware, like him, and also with Alex Jones, these are just people that are censored on multiple platforms to where they can only really place their information on their own websites. And that is something that I was planning on doing if my YouTube was completely terminated, that I would have just started uploading it to my website and be like, anyone can find it from there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's just like I don't know. I don't hold any. I don't. There's no topics that are too taboo for me to touch. I like to I like to bring up anything that we'll talk about if it's worth digging into and talking about. If I think there's actionable intelligence there that we can find, and that's kind of my whole thing is we're sifting through the information and that well first we're sifting through the data to get the information and then we're sifting through the information to find the actionable intelligence that we can actually do stuff with to push the ball further up down the field in this everything's fun to talk about, right? Remember Jeffrey Epstein? Yeah, right. There's
Well,
a-
maybe not that one, but um
yeah.
but it's just asking these questions of our curiosity opens up the imagination for so many scientists like yourself over the years. It's been the imagination that has fueled the research that has made such discoveries, such as the
Oh
internet that we're
yeah.
using right here, right now. But the question of life in the universe and the possible older civilizations visiting our world is such an impossible thing to believe in now. Like, it is we it's difficult to not believe that there is life out there in the universe. And look how this generation, and even looking back to the first Star Wars generation, having their own imaginations stimulated as well. I don't think, if we didn't have Star Wars that started decades ago, we wouldn't have astrobiologists. We wouldn't have certain
Mhm.
scientists attempting to create warp drive. And even though there are people that might not agree with certain alien TV shows or like space TV shows, whatever, it's through those little pieces of entertainment, those little shows that ask the questions that build our imagination, that build our curiosity to want to go ahead and find the answers, or to want to go and create discoveries, or to create technology to help them discover things that we couldn't have imagined decades ago.
Yes,
And
that's why I'm gonna keep talking about the Roswell debris and all I gotta keep talking about UFO debris on this channel because like when I mix that with the with the metamaterials and the quasi crystals, it gives people like hope for the future. Like a lot of
it
the
does.
scientific community and the engineering community, like hope. Like, wait a minute, we can actually build or engineer this stuff with quantum physics and these new space age materials. Like, are you serious? It's like, yeah, we can. We're like there. We're almost there, and I think that we are there in some of these programs, which are 20 to 40, 50 years more advanced because they've had. I feel like there's programs out there that have had access to this stuff for a while, and whether or not there are or not, I don't care. I'm going to still promote that idea because that gets people thinking and gets people like, wait a minute, it gets them thinking in that right direction, which is that's all the push they need, whether it's true or not. Sometimes we're going to figure it out.
So people just need that little callus to someone just needs to ask the right question for people's minds to literally explode and wanting them to ask questions. And just like Roswell, we have to look at all of these historical cases, examine the sightings, listen to the accounts, because those questions we need to be asking. And I think if we don't ask questions, we're not going to evolve as a species.
Right. I mean, I ask tons of like questions too, like MK Ultra. That's a good one too, because MK Ultra, you were talking about the Montauk Project and how like one of your favorite shows is Stranger Things, and I remember I watched the first season of that, and I was like, this is Camp Hero. I remember I was like watching that first episode where they pulled up to that secret facility on the end of the island, and they were like, "Blah, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "That's Camp Hero. Like, this is a real place." Like, they actually did MK Ultra Sub Project 68 there, and they did mind control, electronic warfare technologies research for decades out there, and like for real.
And it's such a great show as well. When I was watching the show, I didn't know about the Montauk Project, but when I was doing the research for the Montauk Project, that's all everyone was talking about was, "Oh, it's like Stranger Things. If you haven't watched the TV show, you should watch it and see the comparisons." And so I'm really excited for the next season, the last season of Stranger Things to do with Russia. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so good. But when I was thinking back to Stranger Things and comparing it to the Montauk Project, I was thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, there's quite a few connections. And based off of my research, originally the TV show was going to be called the Montauk Project, but ended up being changed to Stranger Things.
Really, it got called Stranger Things, but they were originally going to call it the Montauk Project. That's
To my understanding, yeah, from the research that I did. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, there you go. There's your answer."
That would have been like too close though. That'd been like giving
Yeah,
it away. They're like, you can't do that. Like it's a little
probably
too,
not. But it with all of the movies and the TV shows, especially right here, right now. I mean, the last 2 years of movies that have been coming out, a lot of them are related to space and to aliens and to certain kinds of parasites as well. And then you even have in the early 2000s the TV show Fringe. Now, I feel like for those that are interested in this topic, you have to watch Fringe. Just like First Floor Audio states, Fringe is such a great show.
yeah.
And I feel like the
I'm
more
gonna have to go
research.
check that out. I haven't seen. I saw the whole first season of Stranger Things, but I haven't seen beyond that because I started second season and I just couldn't get into it quite the same. Um, and the end of season one was it was just kind of weird with that demon and all the other stuff that
Yeah.
they mixed into it. But it was cool with like the 11, they had like the kids that were these, part of these projects and stuff, like the kids and stuff too. I thought that was like really weird and interesting because I hadn't found too much in the real research in terms of that, but I don't know. I thought that was something cool. But Fringe, I want to have to check that one out because Fringe is like what Alien Scientists is all about. That's what we do here. It's like real life Fringe. So
It's a really great TV show, and like I said, for those that are interested in this topic when it comes to the paranormal and even the UFO phenomena, and from the more research that I do every single day, I think back to Fringe and I'm like, wow, a lot of this has connections with the TV show from countless of projects that I've looked into that are again alleged accounts. There is simply not enough proof to go ahead and provide them to be true or not. But regardless, what I'm getting at is from a lot of TV shows that we're watching, a lot of movies that we're seeing, it seems like there's a lot of connection to truth that they go ahead and paint as fiction.
yeah, my friend said there's some new show on Netflix where it's like a cartoon or something that like it's a cartoon world where all the conspiracies are true. And
Oh my gosh.
they just joke around. They make all these jokes like they live in like I'm like this is my world. This is like what I live in right here. Pretty much, almost, except it's not flat. And this we did land on the moon, and a couple other ones I'm not convinced of, but you know, I'm pretty sure that JFK Jr. died on that flight,
Mhm.
and years ago. He's not QAnon, and but yeah, I don't know.
And
Yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just talking. I got to check out that show Fringe. Totally, definitely, guys. I got to watch more TV. But yeah, that whole cartoon where everything, all the conspiracies are true. I guess it's coming out into the mainstream, and it's breaking out a lot more now. I think I've seen so much that's happened in the last 4 or 5 years for awakening and people like coming around to stuff. I just think I think 2022 is going to be an incredible year. Anything planned for the rest of this year, or any big plans for next year?
Well, we'll see. There's a lot already happening. I mean, right now we have the Gillibrand Amendment, and then you have the UAP task force going to be changed in for a more permanent office. Then you have the UN wanting to do an office as well, but that's been happening since the 1970s, and then it got brushed off and now being repeated back. And who knows what the future holds. I know that there's a lot of I actually don't know, but I've heard that there's a lot of things happening in the background that hopefully we'll be able to see relatively shortly. But I feel like for many of us that have been in the topic for a while, and I've only been doing this for maybe like a year now, but I feel like for people that have been doing this for decades, this is probably the fastest the EWP disclosure has ever come across. And when it comes to my plans for the channel and for my show and radio show, um, I'm really taking it one day at a time. I mean, there is just news drops so consistently now that where what happened a year ago, I don't think I would have expected to happen for another decade. So as for what I have planned for the future, hopefully to get more sleep and maybe eat a little bit less ramen because like not good for me eating plastic
Dude,
every
it's not
day.
healthy. It's not healthy.
But aside from that, um, I guess those that are interested just need to be on the ride with me because I don't know where it's going to take me.
Right on. And people can join that ride by going to Christina Gomez's channel. Remember, Christina, spell it without the H, or you're not going to find her. I had that problem earlier. A couple people keep having that problem with, Christina's awesome. Like, you're spelling her name wrong. Who are you talking about? But yeah, guys can go to Christina Gomez on Paradigm Shifts. You're also a reporter at the Debrief, Debrief Media, the debrief.org. They've done a number of stories covering APEC and a couple of the other things that we've been doing. So the Debrief, go check out them as well. Anything else that you want to plug or send people to talk about? Any other? You have any? Where's your website?
It's paradigmshifts.blog, but everything's in my beacons page where it's just so much easier to find all the social media platforms along with wherever you want to listen to the podcasts as well.
Beacons. What's that?
Oh,
Beacons.
beacons, it's like Linktree where you can just place all of your social media links in one link.
Is this
Sure,
it?
you should get one. It's like
AI.
it's pretty great.
Linktree. I gotta find out what this is. Beacon technology.
No, it's just
No,
called beacons and it's plural. Oh,
beacons. And is it beacons.ai, or what is the website?
it's the second one, with the little black
This
circle
thing
around
right
it.
here. Yeah, this one.
But I will paste the link.
Yeah, I'll have to check out all these things because I'm like I feel like the old timer who's like, I'm kind of tech savvy, but I'm still like learning all these new apps and things that you youngins use.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, and like I said prior, it's where I have all my podcasts, regardless of whatever you listen to, it's all there, and you can put upon tons of links on. But I will paste the link in the chat. It'll just be a lot easier for everyone. And like I said, I definitely recommend you get one. It's just so much easier.
All right, so that's a new one to me. So check out Christina Gomez on Beacons. check out her YouTube channel. Check her out on the debrief. Anywhere else to check you out or to get in touch with you? Any?
Okay. And I put the link in the chat for those that want to see it. Thank you so much for having me on.
I mean, you're welcome to stay and hang out and just talk about, whatever nonsense, anything you wanted to bring up or there you
No,
go.
I think that's everything. I will say I do have some assignments due for college relatively shortly, which
If you
like it's
need any
awful when
more
I have an
help with
exam.
math, let me know, or physics questions,
So for those that don't know the story, this is what, like 6 months ago now. I had this really hard math question.
It was that hard, yeah. No, sorry.
It
No,
was
not for me.
so hard. And I was like, "Jeremy, please, please respond to my messages. Help me pass my class."
Oh god, you don't know how many people I've helped pass calculus and pre-calc and all the there was a number of people I helped. So I love
Oh,
I love it. I love educating the community and bringing up. I'm glad that there's more people like getting into this, and I hope you take your math even further. Get some pre-calc and get some calculus in there, and
uh-huh.
differential equations. Come on, something.
Ah,
Linear algebra. No? Come on.
okay. I
Am I
don't think
boring you?
so.
I'll put it. All right. Maybe
Just
that's why you're not sleeping. You're not doing enough math.
that has to be the reason. I need to know math to use it for my daily life every single day. No,
Who
that's
needs
it.
math? Oh, come on. Let me show you. I'll show you who needs math.
Oh no. No, right now I'm taking some classes that do not involve math. Well, I'm taking a geology class and that does require some math, but it's like very basic math, so it's all okay.
Yeah, that's easy stuff. I remember like economics. I was in economics, and there's a couple people like, what's this graph stuff? That I was like, oh, come on, this is like super easy.
Well, now I'll man, I mean, whenever I was in high school and even in college, I always make sure to sit next to the really smart kid so I can ask them questions and have them help me with my questions because holy crap, math is hard. For some people, I'm one of those people.
Well,
Not for
that's one
you.
thing too, is being able to identify the smart kids and being like,
Oh,
okay, well, this is the people you want to like ask for questions and listen to, and then being able to identify when they're bullshitting you and they don't know the answer. That's the other trick to it. So
this is true. I mean, I haven't had that issue, but I usually try to make sure to sit next to the smart kids.
yeah,
Anyway,
I try not to bullshit. If I don't have the answer, I just try to be like, nah, I don't. Sorry. Uh, hey, this is serious. Good stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay in school and
and
continue
eat your vegetables.
and ramen.
Obviously, that one's a given. That one's a given. But
Yeah.
it's important to eat your vegetables. You want to have healthy organs, so
Yes.
important.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you. We'll catch you again soon, man. I mean, gal. I don't know what I said, man. This is bad. All right, we got to be gender appropriate stereotypes. All right,
It's okay. It's fine.
I'm not.
Man,
We're not
dude,
used to having chicks in ufology. This is
sir.
great. So,
It's okay. I'll just make sure to grow a mustache.
yes.
Okay. It's no big deal. I totally get it. It's very confusing. So you can just call me Christina
I know. I can.
with no age, preferably.
Somehow I made it through 4 semesters of calculus, but I this whole thing, man, woman, I don't know. Confused nowadays, man. I don't know what to do. Humans, we're all just humans. All right, fellow human. Thank you so much. and have a great night.
Bye.